In the far reaches of the galaxy, a diverse array of intelligent species had formed a loose confederation known as the Galactic Alliance. For centuries, these spacefaring civilizations had traded, cooperated, and occasionally clashed as they spread out among the stars. But one species was notably absent from this galactic community: humans. Originating from a small blue planet called Earth, humanity had achieved interstellar travel centuries ago. Their initial forays into the galactic stage, however, had quickly earned them a reputation as an aggressive, warlike species that could not be trusted. Tales spread of human explorers ruthlessly fighting any aliens they encountered, seeming to revel in violence and conquest. Alarmed by humanity's apparent penchant for conflict, the major powers of the Galactic Alliance came to a consensus. Humans were to be quarantined in their own star system, forbidden from expanding further into the galaxy. A perimeter of sentry drones was established around human space, transmitting warnings to stay away. And so, for generations, humans found themselves cut off from the wonders and opportunities of the wider galaxy. While the species of the Alliance advanced and prospered, trading technology and knowledge, humanity was left with only the limited resources of their solar system. Some humans accepted this state of affairs, focusing inwards on developing their own worlds. But others chafed at the confinement, yearning to explore the stars that tantalized them from beyond their prison. Ayla Malik was one such human. Born on a crowded space station orbiting Earth, she had grown up with the frustration and resentment common to many of her generation. "Why should we be trapped here while the rest of the galaxy looks down on us as savages?" she often complained. As a young officer in the human expeditionary forces, Ayla dreamed of the day humanity would break free of its enforced isolation. She trained rigorously, honing her skills as a pilot and commander, always with an eye towards the stars. Her chance would come sooner than she ever imagined, when a small human scout ship slipped through a gap in the sentry perimeter for a clandestine mission. The repercussions of that fateful journey would shake the galaxy. Captain Zhang Li sat tensely at the controls of the scout ship Magellan as it drifted quietly through the void. For months now, they had been mapping the fringes of human space, searching for resources in the asteroid belts and comets that might help their strained colonies. But today, their mission was different. Hidden among the icy debris of a distant Kuiper belt, they had detected faint energy signatures that didn't match any known human technology. Command was skeptical, but had authorized a quick look as long as they kept their distance. "Any visual yet?" Zhang asked his sensor officer, Raha Singh. They had matched orbit with a small moonlet, using it to conceal their approach. "Negative, sir. There's some kind of—" "Wait." Raha's console lit up. "I'm picking up an unknown ship, bearing 274 Mark 38, range 50,000 kilometers and closing." Zhang's heart raced. An alien ship, this close to Earth. It should have been impossible. He opened a comm channel, taking a deep breath to steady his voice before speaking. "Attention, unknown vessel. This is Captain Zhang Li of the HFY Magellan. You have entered restricted space. Please identify yourselves and your intentions." There was a tense pause, then a burst of static. A melodic voice, speaking accented but intelligible Terran, filled the bridge. "Human ship, we are the Thrasian trade vessel Serene Whisper. We came to investigate your strange broadcast signals. We did not realize you were here. We mean no harm." Zhang and his crew looked at each other in shock. Actual aliens, not just automated sentry drones. Protocol for this scenario was virtually non-existent. Humanity had had no direct contact with other species for centuries. As Zhang fumbled for a response, a sudden proximity alert blared through the ship. The Thrasian vessel was accelerating towards them at an incredible rate. "They're on an attack run," Raha shouted. Zhang reacted on instinct, all thought of peaceful contact forgotten in the surge of adrenaline. Battle stations, charge the particle beam, and ready kinetic interceptors. The Magellan's weapon systems hummed to life, servos whining as the hull plates folded back to reveal bristling armaments. "Target locked," Tactical Officer Zoe Okafor reported, her voice taut. Firing. Twin lances of brilliant blue energy streaked out from the Magellan's prow, converging on the alien ship. At the last second, the Serene Whisper veered desperately to the side. One beam missed entirely, dissipating into the void. The other struck a glancing blow, sending the smaller vessel tumbling. Direct hit, Zoe crowed. Their shields are down to 20%. Zhang watched the ship reel on the view screen, suddenly uncertain. Had the aliens truly been about to attack, or had they merely been approaching to get a better look at the strange humans? He never got a chance to complete the thought. Trailing plasma, the crippled Serene Whisper fired its thrusters and fled, vanishing into the dark expanse. The bridge crew sat in stunned silence, the weight of their actions sinking in. They had just attacked a peaceful alien vessel, the first humans to do so in living memory. There would be consequences, Zhang knew. And as he watched the fading glow of the alien engines, he couldn't help but feel that everything had just changed for humanity, and perhaps not for the better. News of the attack on the Serene Whisper spread like wildfire through the Galactic Alliance. Long-held fears about human aggression seemed confirmed. The Thrasians, a generally peaceful mercantile species, were demanding action, reparations. On the lush jungle world of Azanar, an emergency session of the Galactic Council had been convened. Representatives from 100 species sat in the tiered floating platforms that ringed the massive chamber. At the center podium stood the Thrasian ambassador, Kelik Tovar, his vermilion skin flushed with emotion as he recounted the attack. This unprovoked assault by the humans cannot go unanswered, Kelik declared, his voice amplified and translated into dozens of languages. For too long we have allowed this violent species to fester in their corner of the galaxy. Now we see the consequences of our complacency. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Many of the delegates had long viewed humanity's quarantine as a necessary precaution. The humans were too aggressive, too unpredictable to be allowed free rein in the galaxy. But not all agreed. As Kelik retook his seat, another figure glided to the center of the room. Ambassador Zora Ralteth of the Nerian hegemony, her lithe blue form shimmering in the light. While we condemn any act of unprovoked aggression, Zora began, her melodic voice soothing, we must also consider the context. The humans have been cut off from the galactic community for generations. Is it any wonder they reacted with fear and suspicion when confronted by an unknown ship? She paused, her large silver eyes scanning the room. Perhaps it is time we reconsider our policy of isolation. Perhaps through engagement and diplomacy, we can guide the humans towards a more peaceful path. The chamber erupted into heated debate. Species who had suffered at the hands of aggressive neighbors rallied to the Thrasians' call for swift retribution. Those with a more optimistic view of diplomacy sided with the Nerians. In the end, a compromise was reached. The humans would be given a chance to explain their actions and make amends. But if they showed any further signs of aggression, the Alliance would take collective action to ensure the safety of its members. As the council adjourned, few noticed a small group of delegates slipping away, their expressions grim. Led by the Zorgith representative, a tall insectoid with gleaming black carapace, they gathered in a private chamber. These were the species who had lost the most to war, who saw any aggressive species as an existential threat. The council is foolish to give the humans another chance, the Zorgith hissed. We know what needs to be done. For the safety of us all, humanity must be eliminated. The others nodded solemnly. They were a fringe group, but a dangerous one, and they had just decided to take matters into their own claws. Meanwhile, oblivious to the momentous events unfolding beyond their borders, humanity continued its uneasy existence. But forces were now in motion that would drag them, willing or not, onto the galactic stage, a stage set for conflict. Ayla Malik stifled a yawn as she made her way through the dimly lit corridors of Outpost Gamma. As one of the most remote human installations, situated on a desolate moon orbiting a gas giant, Gamma was considered a punishment posting. Ayla had been stationed here after one too many arguments with her superiors about humanity's enforced isolation. She was halfway through her shift in the command center when the alarms began to blare. Alert! Unknown vessels approaching. The automated voice announced over the klaxons, all personnel to battle stations. Ayla raced to her console, adrenaline chasing away any remnants of fatigue. On the main view screen, a cluster of angular ships was just appearing at the edge of their sensor range. They were larger and more heavily armed than the Magellan, their hulls adorned with unfamiliar markings. "Hail them," Ayla ordered, hoping there was still a chance to avoid conflict. But before the comms officer could comply, the lead ship opened fire. The outpost shuddered as a salvo of high-energy plasma impacted their shields. Warning lights flashed red across the control panels. Shields down to 60%. Someone shouted over the chaos, "Hull breach on level 3. Ayla gritted her teeth. So much for diplomacy. All weapons free. Scramble the fighter wings. The battle was fierce but short-lived. The alien ships had the advantage of surprise and superior firepower. Within minutes, Outpost Gamma's defenses were in ruins, its reactor core critically damaged. As fires raged through the crumbling corridors and the wounded groaned, Ayla dragged herself from the wreckage of the command center. Through the gaping holes in the walls, she could see the alien vessels hovering in formation, seemingly untouched by the destruction they had wrought. And then, to her disbelief, a new ship arrived. Its hull was a deep blue, emblazoned with a familiar symbol, the stylized spiral galaxy of the Galactic Alliance. An amplified voice boomed out in accented Turan. "Attention, human survivors. This is the Gas Harbinger. We have received a distress call reporting your unprovoked attack on a peaceful mission. Stand down and prepare to be boarded for arrest and trial." Ayla stared in shock. Unprovoked attack. It was a blatant lie. But with comms destroyed and no other witnesses, who would believe them? The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. This had been no random raid. It was a setup. The unknown ships had deliberately provoked their response, then played the victim for the Alliance. Humanity had been framed for a crime it didn't commit, and now, it seemed, they would pay the price. Far away, in the halls of power on Earth and the other human colonies, news of the attack sparked waves of outrage. Long-simmering resentment at humanity's confinement boiled over into open calls for retaliation. Cooler heads tried to prevail, insisting on a full investigation, but they were drowned out by the clamor of those who had long dreamed of breaking free by force. The Galactic Alliance, for its part, sought its worst fears confirmed. The hawks who had always viewed humanity as a threat felt vindicated. Moderates who had hoped for peaceful integration began to waver. Across the galaxy, ships and soldiers mobilized. Two civilizations, each believing themselves wronged, slid inexorably towards war. All it would take was a single spark to ignite the conflagration. That spark was about to be lit. The Orion Nebula, a vast stellar nursery, its swirling clouds of gas and dust alight with the glow of newborn stars. Once a place of beauty and wonder, now a battlefield. The combined fleets of the Galactic Alliance hung in space, a grand armada of gleaming ships from 100 worlds. Sleek Thracian frigates, massive Zorgeth dreadnoughts, nimble Nerean destroyers, all poised to strike at the approaching human fleet. And what a fleet it was! What humanity lacked in technological advancement, they made up for in sheer tenacity and audacity. Every ship that could be armed and crewed had been pressed into service, from mighty battleships to humble cargo haulers. They came from Earth, from Mars, from the far-flung colonies, all united in defiance against the alliance that had confined them for so long. On the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, Admiral Jiang Li stood resolute. Once the eager young captain of the Magellan, he now commanded the entirety of humanity's space forces. The weight of responsibility hung heavy on his shoulders. "All ships, this is Admiral Li," he broadcast, his voice steady. "Today, we fight not just for our right to explore the stars, but for our very survival. The Alliance has branded us as aggressors, but we know the truth. We are defenders, standing against those who would see us destroyed or enslaved. He paused, letting his words sink in. Remember your training. Watch your wingmates' backs, and never, ever give up. Humanity is counting on us. Lee out. As one, the human fleet surged forward, weapons primed and ready. The Alliance ships responded in kind, and the void erupted in a maelstrom of fire and fury. Ayla Malik, now a fighter pilot, wove her nimble craft through the chaos. Her squadron darted between the capital ships, harrying the enemy with strafing runs and torpedo volleys. She gritted her teeth as a Zorgith frigate exploded off her starboard wing, a shockwave rattling her bones. Humanity was outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with a ferocity that stunned their foes. Their ships were tougher, their tactics more aggressive. They took losses, but dished out punishment in return. A Thracian battleship, its elegant hull scorched and battered, found itself surrounded by a pack of human cruisers. It fought valiantly, but could not withstand the onslaught. Its reactor went critical, and the ship vanished in a blinding flash. The battle raged for hours, then days. The nebula was alight with the fires of dying ships, the comm channels choked with the screams of the wounded and dying. Neither side could gain a clear advantage. But as the conflict ground on, the toll began to mount. Human ships, for all their resilience, started to succumb to the Alliance's superior technology. For every enemy vessel destroyed, 2 human ones were lost. Ammunition ran low. Hulls buckled under the relentless pounding. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Lee watched the tactical display with growing despair. The losses were unsustainable. At this rate, humanity would be blood-dry within weeks. A direct hit rocked the ship, sparks cascading from overloaded consoles. Shields down to 15%. An officer shouted over the claxons, "Hull breach on decks, 7 through 12. Lee gripped the arms of his command chair, his knuckles white. He had to make a choice, keep fighting and risk total annihilation. Or, "This is Admiral Lee to all human ships," he said heavily. "Initiate Exodus protocols. I repeat, initiate Exodus protocols. We're getting our people out of here." It was a prearranged contingency, born of the grim acknowledgement that they might not be able to win this fight. A flurry of encrypted transmissions raced between the battered human vessels, even as they continued to trade fire with the enemy. And then, one by one, human ships began to wink out of existence, vanishing into the swirling nebula. Not in retreat, but in strategic withdrawal to pre-designated rallying points. They would scatter, regroup, and fight another day. The Alliance fleet, sensing victory, pressed their attack. But the humans fought a vicious rearguard action, sacrificing ships to cover their comrades' escape. Ayla Malik's fighter was one of the last to jump out, her squadron reduced to a battered handful. In the end, less than half of the human fleet made the rendezvous. They limped back to the safety of their home systems, bloody but unbroken. The cost had been high, but they had survived. Humanity would endure. But the war was far from over. The Galactic Alliance, enraged by the humans' defiance and their own losses, vowed to press the offensive. More fleets were marshaled, invasion forces readied. The next battle would be fought not in the void of space, but on the very worlds humanity called home. A long, bloody struggle loomed, one that would test the limits of human courage and ingenuity. The price of freedom would be steep, but for a species that had always fought against the odds, surrender was not an option. The fires of war had been kindled, and the galaxy would burn. The war had raged for years, a relentless cycle of invasion and counterattack, of worlds besieged and fleets shattered. Humanity, against all odds, had held the line. Their colonies battered but unbroken, their ships bloody but unbowed. But the cost had been immense. Billions dead, entire worlds scared by the ravages of orbital bombardment and ground combat. And for all their valor, the forces of the Galactic Alliance had suffered just as greatly. On the green fields of Terrania, once a pastoral paradise now pockmarked by craters and littered with the debris of war, Diplomats from both sides met under a flag of truce. Exhausted, grieving, but resolute, they had come to forge a peace from the ashes of conflict. The talks were tense, the wounds still raw. The Alliance delegates, their colorful garb a stark contrast to the utilitarian uniforms of their human counterparts, spoke of the need for safeguards, for assurances that humanity's aggression would be contained. The human ambassadors, led by a haggard but determined Admiral Jangli, fired back with their own demands. Recognition of humanity's right to self-determination, an end to the suffocating isolation imposed upon them. Back and forth the negotiations went, a delicate dance of compromise and concession. Trust was a fragile thing, the scars of war not easily erased. But slowly, painfully, progress was made. The truth of the Outpost Gamma incident came to light, revealing the machinations of the rogue Zorgeth faction that had orchestrated the attack. Apologies were made, reparations agreed upon. And in the end, a treaty was signed. The Tyrannia Accords, as they would come to be known, redrew the map of the galaxy. Humanity would be granted autonomy within their own sphere of influence, free to explore and expand as they saw fit. In return, they would abide by the laws and norms of the galactic community, their warships limited in number and scope. It was not a perfect peace, but it was a start, a chance for both sides to rebuild, to heal, and perhaps, in time, to forge a new understanding. As the ink dried on the treaty and the delegates shook hands, weary smiles on their faces, Ayla Malik watched from the sidelines. Now an admiral herself, a hero of the war, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The galaxy had changed irrevocably. Humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with, earning a grudging respect from those who had once dismissed them as savages. But the scars ran deep, the mistrust and resentment still simmering beneath the surface. This peace, she knew, was but a respite, a chance to gather strength and prepare for the challenges to come. For in a galaxy where humanity had shown its teeth, old assumptions had been shattered. New alliances would form, new rivalries emerge. And humanity, for better or worse, would be at the center of it all. No longer a pariah, but a player on the galactic stage. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: the days of isolation were over. For good or ill, humanity would forge its own path among the stars. As Ayla gazed up at the war-torn sky, she couldn't help but wonder what that path would bring. Would humanity rise to become a beacon of hope and progress, a unifying force in a fractured galaxy? Or would the old cycles of conflict and mistrust reassert themselves, painting the stars once more with the fires of war? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain: the galaxy would never be the same again. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, and the universe would tremble in their wake.